back to 6 where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in Colombia, where the leading presidential candidates are presenting sharply contrasting visions for the country ahead of the 2026 election, but both face the challenge of tight fiscal constraints. Candidates from both the right and the left have announced ambitious plans, such as increasing social spending or tax relief, that may be difficult to implement due to a ballooning budget deficit. With bond markets and investors expressing concern, the candidates must find practical ways to fund their proposals. From Reuters, quote, analysts and investors and officials state that the new government will be forced to address spending, tax revenue, and debt to avoid harming Colombia's investment grade credits rating and without increasing borrowing costs, end quote. Next, we travel across the Atlantic to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where their Senate has approved a bill that could allow President Felix Tedeschi, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, sir, to run for a third term by lifting current constitutional term limits. The proposed change must still pass the lower house of parliament and a public referendum before taking effect. Critics have warned that the move threatens democracy and political stability in the Central African nation. From Reuters, quote, supporters of the reform argue they need to modernize institutions and respond to citizens' expectation, while opponents see it as an attempt to entrench presidential power, end quote. Next, coming back across the Atlantic, we go to Canada, where home sales rose by 5.5% in May, indicating increased activity in the country's housing market. Simultaneously, the average home price dipped slightly by 0.2% from April, suggesting a shift in market trends. The Canadian Real Estate Association pointed to easing borrowing costs and pent-up demand as factors contributing to the jump in sales. From Reuters, quote, sales in May were up in a majority of local markets, although it was British Columbia, Lower Mainland, and Greater Toronto areas, two of Canada's biggest and most expensive markets, that contributed most to the rise, end quote. Next, across the Pacific in Taiwan, President Lee Ching-te has pledged to maintain robust defense spending despite the opposition-controlled parliament cutting the government's proposed budget for next year. Taiwan faces continued military pressures from China, and President Lai emphasized his commitment to steadfastly defending national security without wavering on the defense of and investments of such. From Reuters, quote, Taiwan, the president said on Sunday he will not back down on defense spending despite parliamentary cuts, and he is pledging to steadfastly defend the national security in the face of continued Chinese pressure, end quote. Next, we travel south to Australia, where the Bureau of Meteorology has confirmed that the El Nino event is underway in the tropic Pacific, which could result in higher temperatures and lower rainfall in Australia. This weather pattern is expected to influence global climate, possibly worsening drought conditions and increasing the risks of brush fires in the region. Experts warn that this development may have far-reaching effects on agriculture and water resources. From Reuters, quote, the tropical Pacific Ocean is now showing clear signs of El Nino, the Bureau said, adding that the weather phenomenon typically leads to warmer and drier conditions across much of eastern Australia, as well as an increased risk of brush fires and heat waves. This declaration comes as climate authorities stress the importance of preparedness for heightening weather extremes during the southern hemisphere's summer months, end quote. Next, we travel to France, where they plan to invest 654 million euros or $700 million in artificial intelligence development, aiming to launch a unified government chatbot for all state services by 2026. This initiative is intended to streamline public administration and improve digital services for the French citizens. The government also seeks to establish France as a leader in AI innovation across Europe. From Reuters, quote, the announcement in part of France's broader effort to become a leader in digital technologies following a call by President Emmanuel Macron to catch up to the United States and China. The investment will also go towards supporting French AI startups and research on the whole. The move is a part of a broader strategy to enhance technological infrastructure and competitiveness, end quote. And if you want to read any of today's articles in their entirety, you can find them linked in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine, as well as the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post links to these episodes when they go live. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe, don't die,